Well, hello everyone. Just gonna confirm that the audio is working. All right, the visual is working. Okay, and here. All right. Well, Nora is work. Nora's in the chat. Nora, can you hear me? Nora cannot hear me. Hmm. Ah, perfect. Number one. Great. Well, welcome everyone to the Bigfoot 200-mile little recap. It's a shorter recap than I was hoping or expecting, although I think that there's a lot to talk about today because, as you may or may not know, it did not go as planned, the race, and it was a much shorter race than I would have wanted. But it's also a race that I've learned a lot about myself, about running, about racing and what to do and what not to do in case of injury, which we'll get into. But it's a long race, and I've still done a fair amount of the course, a fair amount of distance, which was beautiful. And I want to talk about that experience, but also about the injury, about everything that has happened afterwards. I have some footage, and the footage is really great actually. I was really lucky with some of that, some of the people I raced with, so I want to share that experience, but also share what it means for the future. So before we get started, I already tested the audio. Hopefully it's loud enough. And I'm curious who's in the chat right now. Where are you guys from? Did you or will you plan to race Bigfoot someday? So let me know in the comments below. And I think I have the comments. Oh, I turned them off here, but I can see them from the other camera. So feel free to chime in. And if not, we'll get rolling with the tape, with the discussion about everything that happened, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So Nora is from my house, apparently. So Nora, you don't need to answer that one. Uh, but yeah. All right. Well, you know what? Let's get started. So I'll just switch to the other view. And even before that, yeah, so just like the prior kind of times that we've done that in the past, I'm just gonna have the kind of the footage in the background. I will comment on it, but I'm also will be pausing to take question or anything like that. So okay, David from Beaverton, Oregon. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was, I guess, not so far from there. I flew to Portland, which will be the beginning of the story. Even my ugly face right now, all puffy, is actually from the travel and not from the race itself. We have also Simol from Southern California. Well, we're neighbor. Uh, Oh, we met during the race, David. Oh, cool, cool. Well, hopefully I was not grumpy already, but I was definitely grumpy at some point when the night fell. Everyone was asking, "How are you doing?" or "Good job," and I was just, I don't know, being very negative about it. Still, still feeling a little bit sore about the whole experience, not because of the race, but just because of how things turned out. But I had time to process the emotion a little bit more. So I guess I've grown in a week or 10 days since what happened. And we even had a Leadville this weekend where we were crewing, which I won't talk about too much today, but that was actually pretty cool. Both Nora and I, we just flew back yesterday evening. So I'm actually still tired, just like the picture here, but in a different kind of way. So we have also people from Quebec, Mike from Lexington, Kentucky. It's cracking. I'm cracking. That's what's cracking right now. My ankle is cracking. And from North Carolina. Oh, I didn't know I can spell that you were North Carolina. Well, hi everyone. Let's get rolling. So actually, the whole adventure, and I don't know how much of that footage will be. The whole adventure really started poorly. um, is that full screen? No, that's good enough. Anyway, it started really poorly. So I was flying. I'm always flying last minute because of work. Um, oh, there's sound on this. No, thank you. I'm always flying last minute because I have to work as much as possible from my office. So I was flying Wednesday early evening, and of course, that's exactly when all of the system from United, at least nationally, if not internationally, crashed, which meant that all of the flights were grounded. So I think it's my first time that I traveled that they actually deplaned us. So we were stuck in the plane forever. Eventually, they said, "Okay, we got to deplane you guys." And then it just took forever. The system went back online, but of course, then the crew, they had worked too many hours. So then they needed to switch the crew. It took forever. So basically, I flew like at midnight, had a connection in San Francisco. Obviously, I missed my connection. So then I had to sleep at the airport on a bench in a restaurant. So that's my puffy face. So that's me getting prepared for a 200 miler where I was going to be sleep deprived. Also, just before that, I had spent, I think, 2 nights without sleeping much editing the Trhough movie, which, by the way, if you haven't seen the Trhough movie, that's my last greatest adventure that had a lot of fun. So, worth seeing that movie. But yeah, so I was like 3 nights without sleep and I was getting into a 200-mile race, which turned out to not be a real issue because of everything. But yeah, that was not great. And then yeah, they offer you like $10 for dinner or something. I was like, wow, like this is not compensating nearly enough. And it even got kind of stressful for me because I was flying Wednesday and the race is Friday morning. You have to give your drop bag Thursday. I didn't know the course. I didn't have my drop bag ready. I just had thrown everything in my blue bag and said I hope for the best. So basically, I arrived Thursday, put everything in drop bag, 3 drop bag. And I was like, all right, like I guess at 50, 100, and 150, that's where I'm gonna see my drop bag. Hoping for the best, but yeah. Hey, Chad, nice to see you, dude. I was in Colorado recently. Of course, we didn't cross path, unfortunately, but yeah, nice to see you, man. And yeah, I mean, terrible experience. But I felt, you know what? It's just like when you have a bad dress rehearsal. Then it's supposed to be a good race, right? Like that's how you try to convince yourself. But no, I felt that everything was lining up for me to have a hard time. As you know, I've also been battling an injury with my anterior tibialis slash kind of ankle a little bit coming in the race. And it's been stagnant recently that I don't see progress anymore. So I was a little concerned coming in, feeling out of shape because I couldn't train, feeling my injury might not be where I want it to be, and then being super sleep deprived, not knowing the course. But then we went to race check-in, and I was excited that I might see Goggin. I can tell you right now, if you're here to see some Goggin footage, unfortunately, I only saw him for half a second at the beginning of the race, and that was it. So no Goggin for me. Very sad. But yeah, race checking was great. A lot of people, the Triple Crown folks, we say hi. So that was a good experience as always. I'm just gonna skip ahead a little bit. Yeah, my taping of feet. And yeah, these are the drop bags that I randomly put. I'm actually proud of myself because I remembered afterwards where I had put drop bag, which I mean, I was that level of unprepared, which isn't great. But I feel that for a 200 miler, you have to improvise anyway and keep rolling. So it doesn't need to be perfect as long as I have like kind of yeah, a change of socks here and winter or night clothing there, I should be good enough. But yeah, then we drove there. There were so many dogs. It was a great start of the race. Playing with all of the dogs and everything. Skipping ahead, yeah, the guy here in the costume was actually really fun playing with dogs. The dogs were kind of loving it, which was kind of, yeah, like this one not so much, but other dogs were like, oh, like that's my big brother. So they were really excited about it. Typical check-in. He won. Spoiler alert, this guy always wins apparently. But yeah, so let's get to the start of the race. So it started the race with and by the way, if you have any question, just jump in. I do have the chat right in front of me so I can see it, and I'm really happy to discuss about anything or everything and answering question. Obviously, I don't know the course very well, but I know 40 miles of it, which is enough to already kind of have some insights as to how you should prepare for that. The Bigfoot costume must have been numerous. Yeah, and it must be really smelly also and disgusting. I don't know if they ever wash it, but I don't want to think about that too much. The Bigfoot costume. So the races start like with single track immediately, and for any race, when you start with the single track immediately, that's kind of not a disaster, but that's a way to pace smartly from the beginning because it was impossible to pass people. So it was actually good for me because that gave me time to test my ankle a little bit and you might have seen it. I have some Joe Nimble shoes, German company. These shoes, not these ones specifically, but the same or previous model, they save my feet so many times on 200 miler. I always do the same thing except for this one apparently, which is I start with whatever Hoka Speed Goat or whatever shoes I have that I need to test. And 50 miles, 100 miles in, I have blisters, I have pain everywhere, and I switch to these Joe Nimble. So I decide, this is silly. Let's just start with the Joe Nimble from the start. They were really good for whatever duration that I did. But yeah, the race started like a gorgeous forest, and it's great because you're really taking your time. You have here Phil Clark. Well, you barely see him. That I think he's done it 7 times or something crazy like that. So he kind of knows, like he's a little bit the expert of the area a little bit. So I was walking with them and kind of taking insights as to like what are the segments ahead, how does it look. They had rerouted us for the last 30 miles, so we were talking about that, like how it's going to be, how it's going to affect the course. Um, hey, Jerry, nice that you can jump in. And Pierre checking to say hi. Simon and Nora. Nora's in the chat, but I think Nora is partly in the chat because we need to work sometimes, unfortunately, and work has been difficult for her today. So if you can send love to Nora for her difficult day, difficult Monday. Like it was a Monday, which is already bad, but it was a bad Monday. So send her some love. I think we can all relate to a bad Monday, especially after a weekend so much fun with friends in Leadville. I think the contrast is pretty steep. It was steep for me too, actually. But yeah, so we climbed slowly, and that was perfect for me to kind of get my previous injury going. Walking is a bigger issue for me than actually running, but that was a good way to kind of test it. And it wasn't too bad. I was feeling tight, but I felt like this is the right decision. The injury is not where I want it to be, but it's not going to prevent me from finishing the race. So I was feeling pretty good about it, despite being nervous. You always, back of your mind think, yeah, I mean, I have 200 miles or something to go. And for those not familiar with the Bigfoot course, it's a point-to-point in Washington, and we start close to Mount St. Helens. So everything you will see now is around St. Helens. When you see a big mountain in the background, I think that's St. Helens, and it was really gorgeous and very special. You have these volcanic rock. It switched from a very lush forest to having these very open views, very rocky, and that was really, really cool. I had a lot of fun with the people. And when you get in Boulder Field, this one is minor, but the bigger one, it's actually not so easy to find your way. Uh, it we kind of all got lost, but it was actually great to be with a group of people and having some people ahead of you, maybe like 30 feet, 50 feet ahead. So you know where they're going and you kind of follow. And when they get lost, they have time to retrace their step and go in the right area. But it made it really special. And I heard a lot of people say that Bigfoot of the Destination Trail race is their favorite because of the landscape, because of the huge difference. I mean, you can see right now how this is so different than when we were in the forest. And all day when I was racing, that it was like that. It was just switching from one landscape to the other. Like you feel you're on the moon first, and then you're in this very lush forest. So it was really cool. And we were just taking our time, but making good time, I would say. Long run at 2 a.m. Not sure what you mean there by long run at 2 a.m. But yeah, so that was that. And the higher we got in the first segment, there's a lot of climbing. So of course we got our legs under us, but it felt good because the view was opening up and I felt excited. It's nice weather. It was not too hot. It was like in the 70s, perfectly comfortable, feeling good, nervous about my ankle, but everything is fine. And we're like, what, 5 miles in at this point. Whenever I could run, I was still running, thinking like I have a long day ahead of me, but I want the extra buffer in terms of cutoff because I was worried that my injury could get worse through the race and then I need to really slow down or take my time. No, that's not what I wanted. Oh no. Hold up. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of here. And I don't know if I said it, but I think I'm gonna make a movie out of that. There's enough of a story to make like something that looks nice. So if you're curious about that, like come back in a few weeks and I'll make a movie. But I wanted to talk about the experience because I'm gonna cut a lot of like the pain and the issues. But right now I was not in pain. I was just like I'm so grateful, and probably that's what I was saying. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful to be able to be racing right now, to come back from an injury. I felt like that was my coming back story. Like, I was suffering all summer, but like finally I'm able to run and do these things. And part of the training, I was running, I think the last week before that, 70 miles in a week. So, it was okay. Like I was not barely walking anymore. I was kind of back at it. It's just not really fit. Um, you'll see a lot of we're getting pretty high, but a lot of it gets a little repetitive. And yeah, that's where you start to have real boulder feel. Then it was disheartening a little bit just how slow you would go from we were doing good speed and you can see we're barely going at 1 or 2 miles an hour, one step, And this is hard on your ankle when your ankle was already in pain, or pain is not actually, I don't have pain, but stiff. Having to stabilize all the time on these rocks and feeling like the next step could be my last step. I was a little worried, but I knew that not the whole course would be necessarily kind of like that. I'm sorry about the ads. I'm not sponsored. Unfortunately, this is the only revenue that I have to like pay for equipment and all of these things. So I really apologize for that. Um, it is what it is. If I was a real influencer, unfortunately, that's not the case. I do it for fun, but there are costs associated to it, and I do need to run the ads. So yeah, I'm sorry if it's spoiling a little bit your experience, but if you have a better solution, feel free to propose it. Anyway, the boulder field was really one of the highlight of the course, other than the sunset for me. Really cool, really special, but very challenging. So I already know for next year, because yes, I'll definitely be back for my revenge. I'm gonna train my ankle to be stronger and a little bit more stable. Right now I'm at about, I would say, 5 to 8 miles actually. There's a lot of footage at the beginning of the race because you're excited and you think everything is just so gorgeous. So like 5 to 8 mile. The first aid station that we'll see fairly soon is at 12, but we go in the forest a little bit before that. So we're climbing this and then we'll be in the forest, which you can see below. But yeah, it was super technical, super slow going. But as soon as we get in the forest, we're able to run, and I was making actually pretty good time. I was worried that I would be too slow, but that's not the case. Oh, apparently there's a little bit more of that. Um, but yeah, one of the most scenic race I've done in the US. Actually, it was really, 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 really cool. All right, I think we're getting there. Yeah, so we're almost at the aid station. I actually do have footage of when it happened, unfortunately, and that might be a few footage from here. Uh, just we won't see anything. As you can see, this is really runnable, but there were always little rocks and little roots. Let's see. Oh, did I pass it? No, yeah, okay. That's where I'm complaining. Yeah, so that's the footage. Oh my God. Okay. Next footage is exactly when I rolled my ankle and sprained it. So several times in those first 12 miles, I rolled my ankle, but it's turned out is good for that, unfortunately. But this time, I was distracted filming. My ankle was already stiff from the injury, and I rolled it, and immediately I heard something snap. I was not so sure it was something bad, but I sat down, which I never do when I roll my ankle. I usually just go for it. But I felt bad, even though I was 50 meters from the aid station. I need a minute. Um, Hoping that it wouldn't be too bad, hoping that it was not a tear or anything like that. But being kind of worried and trying to not overthink about it, doing my things. So I went to the aid station, took my time, sat down, eating and everything. Yeah, I mean, it was difficult to balance. So Arkan is asking or saying it's difficult to balance trying to make up time, but also like not burning yourself. I tend to just, I don't know, I go for it at the beginning. When I'm able to run, I run because it's different muscle. And when I'm not able to do it anymore, I start walking at 200-mile. And then that really gives you a huge buffer between the cutoff and yourself. Like when you have 10-hour, 12-hour of buffer, it feels much more comfortable than if you're always chasing cutoff. So I'm willingly putting myself in a kind of calorie deficit and energy deficit at the beginning of a 200-miler for the first few aid station. I was aiming to go like that for the first 24-hour. That's what I do at Cocodona, Tour des Jeans, all of these races where within 24-hour, I gain almost 12 hours over the cutoff, and then I don't need to think about it ever again. Then I can go at the slow pace of 2-3 miles per hour, and that's totally fine. But yeah, I mean, I was already pretty ahead of the cutoff, and the next one, even though I was injured getting there, I gained a lot of time. So time was definitely not the issue, despite the injury. The injury was the issue. But at this time, I was still thinking like, okay, like this is minor. I can still walk on it. I'm following with people. I was still even able to run a little bit. Uh, yeah, and I'll go definitely faster because I don't want to ramble too much, and I feel bad watching this footage because I know, unfortunately, this is the last segment of racing that I've done for a very long time. Like Tao was the last race that I did two segment only. This one I was already injured from the sprained ankle. Um, Minor sprained ankle, but still good enough to knock me out of the race. This segment was also a very long one. It was 25-ish mile with probably 4,000 feet of gain, and a lot of the terrain was kind of on wobbly rock. So it was a tough segment to begin with, but it was definitely not the right segment to have a minor sprain and still feel good about it. But at this point, I was kind of feeling okay about it. It was not dramatic. Yeah, asking if I met Goggin. I saw Goggin at the beginning of the race, and that was it. I never saw him again. And I had to check in or these things. I haven't seen him. I don't think that he was necessarily hanging out to meet people. Maybe he did, and I just didn't see him. But yeah, I saw him go by, and that was it. I never had any intention of following up with him. He did, I think, 66 hours, which even if I were to be healthy, I would not do a time like that. I think well rested and healthy on a course like that, I would probably do 75, maybe 80 hours, like if I had a good break before. But more realistically, I was going for a 90 to 95 hours on that day. And if I hadn't sprained my ankle, I'm pretty sure that's what I would have done. Although the last few segments were a little faster, so maybe I would have been able to accelerate a little bit. Uh, Yeah, I'll answer Arkin when I was thinking about dropping a little later, actually, when it will happen. But at this point, I was really trying to focus on keep going. Like I'm still able to run, and it was not like all of a sudden it was super swollen. I've dealt with sprained ankle before, and I've seen Nora, for example, last year when we were at the Tour du Mont Blanc, when she herself she sprained her ankle immediately. It was very obvious that I was very seriously hurt, and immediately, we removed the shoes, swelling automatically and having to put compression. Whereas for this one, it didn't swell immediately. Right afterwards, I think the adrenaline was also strong enough for me to feel like it's when you roll it and it's not sprained, it can still be sore a little bit, and it felt more like that than like full blown sprain. But what happened is that it kind of developed, or it didn't improve. In fact, it just got worse and worse, and especially when I had to stabilize my leg. So, like just this crossing, for example, you have to stabilize it a little bit. So that was a little bit painful, but I was still able to do it. But there were a lot of water crossing, and when we crossed the blast zone and all of these areas, there's a lot of small rocks, so it's almost impossible to have your feet level. It's always tilted, and when the tilt is in the wrong direction, then I could feel it, and I was like, yeah, you know what, this is not just sore. But right now I'm still okay. Although, yeah, I think this is where you kind of go down and up, and it gets kind of steep. Yeah, with ropes. So that's actually pretty cool to climb with ropes. Unfortunately, it's hard to film with one hand and then use the rope. I did my best, but and that was really cool. But I was starting to feel it when I did that. I felt that my left ankle, not the old injury, but the new one, the sprain, was really getting not great. And it started getting in my head of, okay, like, is it seriously hurt, and what can I do to prevent it from getting worse? Like, should I just wrap it really tight, and will that help or not? And it's just in my head, and I didn't want to focus too much about it, but it's almost impossible to not think about it because there's not much going on. We start getting a little bit more spread, so there's less talking and there's more focus on I'm tired, but mostly my ankle is not great. And one of the things that was worrisome and is still worrisome is that when I roll my ankle, it's not the same ligament than the anterior tibialis, that was my more chronic injury that I've had for 3 months. But it made it feel worse. And up to today now, like that's actually the biggest issue is not the sprain specifically, but the anterior tibialis just got worse from that. I don't know why, because it didn't roll in that specific angle, but potentially the local inflammation just reactivated the chronic inflammation that I had there. Hard to say, but point is, it made like I'm climbing now, and when I'm climbing and your ankle is kind of lifted like this, that's where it's the most painful for my anterior tibialis, and that's where I start dragging my feet, which has been my issue lately. Is for whatever reason, I have a foot drop a little bit, so my ankle just doesn't stay like that naturally. It drops, and when you're walking, I drop my feet and then I drag it on the floor, and it starts doing it more and more and more through that. But it's hard to say if did I sprain my ankle because it was stiff and it did something like that. That was not my impression. My impression was, if anything, I was filming and I was distracted from the ground rather than like my feet not responding the way I wanted. But as we were climbing there, I remember that very specifically. The whole area, not just the specific tendon that I might have sprained. At this point, I didn't know it was a sprain, but felt worse and worse. And I tried to deny it. Like I'm running with this guy. I'm like, I can run. I can, if I can run, I'm fine. I'm good enough. But you know, that's silly. That's silly thinking. And eventually I got mature a little bit more in my thinking, but I was definitely in the mindset right now of not accepting the reality. And I might make a movie about that, like what I learned about kind of my thought process here. But you can see my limp actually now. Like if you look carefully, I'm limping a little bit. Um, but it's the whole grief process a little bit. At first, you're more in denial. It's not really sprain. Then I start gambling, not gambling, but how do you call that? Trading or like trying to trade something. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna push through this race and finish anyway. It's not so bad. And then I might, not start Swiss Peaks because Swiss Peaks would be too much. So Swiss Peaks I'm not gonna do, but I'm still gonna go hiking with Nora in Switzerland, drop the 200 miler, take time to heal, and then come back stronger for Moab. Because I felt at this time I never had a DNF. You have all of the stupid buckle behind, but I was 58 for 58, and I had this kind of silly goal of like, I know I'll DNF someday, but I would love to DNF after I reach 100 miler. Like, wouldn't that be cool if like I managed to do that? So there was this kind of ego thing going on that I can't drop a race. That's a silly way to drop a race. So my shoe for the question, hiking haiku is Joe Nimble is a German company, and the model is a Trail Pro Addict. They're honestly they're great shoes for longer distance. I've used that model, well, the previous model version of that model for almost all of my 200 miler for the second half when my feet has issue. There's a oops, sorry. There's a lot of room for the toe box, which is helpful, especially when your feet are swelling a little bit. And I wish I had them here, but they're very sturdy. So it's not feel good shoes. It's not like your speed go that you're running on clouds and like they're breathable. Like these shoes are a little bit more stern, but they protect your feet. And that's particularly helpful when you start getting tired and it's rocky and you kick with your toes all the time and you will have blisters from that with speed goat or like even lose your toenail. These are the opposite of that. You feel like you're wearing like a big hiking boot almost, which it feels stiff a little bit. And I wouldn't do like interval or shorter distances, but for a long distance, wow, my feet were feeling great. And even if you have blisters prior to using the shoes, I've done that in the past. Like I had bad blisters, use these shoes. My feet were better after 100 miler with blisters than they were before, thanks to these shoes. Uh, yeah, I mean, there's a question like, how do you make the difference between an injury and being hurt? It's tough. Like I think you have to know yourself to know something is wrong. And at the beginning, I couldn't tell that necessarily something was definitely wrong. I know it was hurting, but is the pain just soreness because I stretched it in a bad way, or is there something more to that? Like, is there a sprain? With the adrenaline, it's almost impossible until you have more time. And then it just really felt like this is definitely not normal. And the further I go, clearly the worse I'm making it. Another part of that thinking for me was that I had rolled my ankle, I think, 3, 4 times before actually spraining it. So I was prone to rolling my ankle on that terrain and thinking, and that now, right now, I'm thinking very much like, what am I doing at the next aid station? Like, do I go up until I can't anymore? Or do I pull the plug early because I know I cannot reach the finish line? Like, I was starting to think like that, and it just got worse and worse and worse. But there's no way for me to not roll my ankle again in the next 180 miles by then. Like I'm going to be sleep deprived. It's going to be rocky. And my ankle is also just kind of acting weird because it's stiff and it's painful. So I'm going to roll it again and again. And I'm definitely going to make it worse, not just from using it, which already would make it worse, but from rolling it over and over again. So that's actually where I started. We see uh, do we see it? Yeah, I think we see the blast zone, and that's really where I was like, I don't think I can actually finish this race right now. So I have to think about the future. Like this race, I could feel better about myself and protect my ego by going up until my ankle is purple and swollen like a grapefruit or something like that. Or I can be a little more mature about it and say, look, this I'm not finishing anyway. I don't need to increase the damage and increase the time for recovery for me to prove to myself that like I'm a man, I'm carrying the boat. I don't need to know to do that. I think something else that was playing in my mind a lot is Nora and I mean, we've had a tough year working and everything. It's been rough. We finally have vacation in 1 week from now. We're going to Switzerland hiking, and then I had Swiss Peak 360 in theory. It's our first vacation in like a year, and a year ago was when we were in the Alps and she rolled her ankle and she sprained it early in the trip. So it feels like we have to have this right now. We have to have this good time together on trail, and I didn't want to jeopardize that by just being stupid and like dropping at mouth 150 anyway, and then like I can walk on it for a long time. So I knew that it was sprained, but most likely not a big deal. I think maybe later I have footage, maybe not. At some point I removed my shoes and I looked at it, and it was like a little discolored, but it was not like this purple, black, red kind of nightmare. It was just a little bit. You could see that something was wrong, but rapid inspection wouldn't notice that it's terrible. It's like it's a little swollen here. If I touch it, oh yeah, it's painful there, but nothing dramatic. So I was thinking, yeah, it's a sprain, but like it's grade 1, grade 2, so recovery time is 2 to 4 weeks. Is something that is somewhat manageable. You can see here, like there's a lot of rocks like that, and normally that would be something that you can run very easily. You should run that, but with my ankle, every time I would step on a little rock, it would be so painful that I couldn't do it. I'm just going to look at the question very soon. Yeah, heard between injury. Thank you. Nobody's not made for running on trail. So the Tolo Gaming is saying my dream is to run ultras. I run in trails for 10 minutes, 2 hours. No hurt, run 12 miles in asphalt, took me 3 hours, and my ankle hurt like if I rolled them. Oh, well, yeah, no, nobody's made for running on roads. Sorry, I read too quickly. Don't run on roads. That's really that's the smart thing is to just say no more road. I think it's harder on joints, and you also, or at least I tend to run much faster on asphalt, which also increase the impact. Whereas when you're on trail, you're slowing down, you're walking sometimes. I think it's just milder, and that's why a lot of kind of older folks really focus on just doing trail. And then you have views like that, right? I mean, I think I think this is worth the detour. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I mean, I'm nostalgic that like I saw beautiful things like that, but I was very much not in a good mental place at that time. I was like, I just need to reach the aid station and make a decision. I hadn't decided necessarily if I were to drop or not, but the seed of like I think I need to call it was definitely there, and it will become more and more obvious when we're gonna get lost very soon and when the night fell in. Uh, yeah, 58 of 58 before DNF is still great, but it's still, that's one of the things that hurts me is like, well, maybe I shouldn't have started this one, like since I was not 100%. So I feel really sad about it. I really feel sad that that's how it ended. Um, in a way, I appreciate that it's directly injury related, as opposed to just, being tired or not being fast enough. Like I have something to point to and say, like, I was injured. That was not in the car. Injured at mile 12, not mile 150. That would have changed my decision for sure. I knew I had a lot of time on my feet to go and that I would hurt it more. But yeah, I mean, it hurts. If you can do 58, then statistically, that means that I could have done 100 if I had, I don't know, more careful. I don't know if it's the word, but yeah, it's sad. So we're about to reach that road, and that road is really like when I decide that I'm most likely dropping. All of these rocks were normally you would run on that, but this was super painful on my feet and my ankle. Every step was agony, and then with I don't know if it was this guy, but we made a wrong turn, so I did an extra mile, and that kind of confirmed that I should just call it at this point. Really, really sad about it, but that's life. So yeah, so Rob is asking, I went in with a slight injury, or like it's a chronic one that was not exactly where I was. Like, was I tempted to withdraw and get some of my money back? Um, I'm gonna climb on my soapbox, but I think the system. and it's a lot of race, but destination is it's hard to see the color on this one, but you can see it's a little bit purple or starting to be purple and swollen. Um, yeah, the footage is not good, but it's here. Nothing dramatic, like I said, but there was definitely something that was different. Um, and I was saying, I think like where it hurts, where it doesn't hurt. Um, sorry, yeah. But Destination Trail does not do refund. They can do partial deferral to next year, but because I'm already in Triple Crown, the money is gone. Like the money was gone, no matter what I decide to do, and that's the case already. Like when I was back at Tao and thinking about the rest of the year, money is gone. Like same thing for Moab right now. Moab is in October. I can't get my money back, so I'm not gonna unsubscribe myself from the race. I'm just gonna make a game time decision. But despite that, I was still thinking like, should I be doing it? And I talked with a few people before the race, and Nora also like, should I pull from that race? And I decide like, you know what? I've done it in the past. I've come in race not feeling great about it. Let's not be scared and let's just go for it. I didn't think that I would make it worse. I just felt maybe I'm going to be very slow. Maybe it's going to be kind of painful, but I didn't think I would like straight up roll it and sprain it. I don't think they're necessarily related. I think it's just bad luck. You could argue that the stiffness in my ankle made me more prone to rolling it. I was maybe a little bit less agile. I don't think that's the case specifically on how I rolled it. What I do wonder is that I think that the stiffness may had make it more likely that once I rolled it, instead of just roll it and you just brush it off, because it was stiff, like something kind of popped. That might be the case. That might be that because it was stiff, I made it more likely not to roll it, but to be injured from the rolling. We'll never know. But the fact that the underlying injury is worse right now makes me think that that's probably the case, unfortunately. But how can you predict something like that? I mean, you can't predict something like that. But yeah, hindsight is 2020, and I regret going. Yeah, a little bit because of the outcome. I think I made the right decision with the information that I had, but the outcome. And Nora knows. I mean, I've been in a bad mood for some time. Like I'm much better now, especially after seeing some friends, but I was not in a happy place after that race at all. I was sad, I was angry, I was, my ego was hurt, my body was hurt, my mind was hurt. I felt bad about myself, and felt bad about the performance, felt it was so stupid that the single step could kind of break what, like 5,800 miles, so like well, more than 6,000 mile because there's 200 mile in there. So 6,000 mile and then one wrong step and it's kind of over. I know, it's not over. I'm still gonna race and these things, but there's also the added benefit that then it feels like, well, like a second injury after 3 months of rehab, then you tag another 3 months to that. My season is over. All of the money from race registration that you cannot get back. I'm gonna DNS all of these races. So you kind of spiral in negativity, which made it tough. But at the time, and that's where we got lost all the time. I don't know if anyone here was racing that. I have no clue how you would get out of these segments if you're in the night. We were just before nightfall. We were a group of maybe 20 people, and together we were able to find our way out. But it was super, super annoying, but also super painful because sometimes you're walking in these bushes, and then there's a hole, and then like without necessarily rolling, like the ankle is mobilized heavily, so that made it even worse. But by then I was like, I'm gonna see the medic, and unless they say like there's nothing wrong with your ankle, I was thinking I have to drop because the only reason, and I think this is beautiful. I want to pause here. The only reason that was like, Simon, you cannot drop right now, was the whole ego thing about I've done 58 races without ever DNFing. Like I don't want to have that stain on my resume. Like it's so ego driven, and I think you guys know, like I'm not ego driven usually. Like I usually make the right decision, and that was the only potential argument for staying in the race because I was not having a good time. Like yes, this is gorgeous, and it's even more beautiful when you're there, and it's the camera doesn't do it justice, but the beautiful color, the beautiful scenery, nice trail, nice people, but I'm not having a good time. Every step I'm making, I'm reminded that I'm injured and most likely making it worse. I'm sleep deprived already, feeling really bad and thinking I have at this point probably 170 mile or 170 miles to go. Like it's just gonna be miserable. And I run and I race for fun. And I knew there was no fun left in that. So then it's a matter of like, okay, well, if I stay in, I'm gonna be miserable, most likely not finish anyway. If I pull out, I'll be able to go to Switzerland, recover faster, most likely hike or at least walk around and not be like almost in a wheelchair or whatever because I was just ego driven to finish. I was also thinking about our good friend David Goggin, right? I mean, he raced the race and he finished, but he messed up his knee before, and that's why he hasn't been racing for like 5 or more than that amount of time. And I really don't want that. I think I'm able to say I'm not superhuman. I'm not a machine. I can break down too. I can sprain my ankle and I can call it. Yeah, I can push through the pain. And I've proven that in the past for things like broken ribs. Super painful when you're wearing a running vest and you're at altitude and you're breathing hard for oxygen. But I knew I was not making it worse. So I can kind of shut that down. But the sprain, making it worse just was not worth it. So that's around the time, and I think we saw her. I had a friend from Quebec that was right in front of me, Sandra, and we were talking about that, and that's where kind of the decision was almost official by then. Like I was saying, I'm gonna talk with the medic, but I was like, yeah, like what are they gonna say? Like they're not gonna just be like, well, you should continue on an injury. I was pretty sure at best that maybe they would say, okay, let me tape it and you go to the next aid station and we'll see how it goes. But that's definitely not the message that that the person sent me. But I kind of knew, right? I knew that it was not a good idea. Let me just catch up and comment a little bit. Screenshot for the only feed account. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, send me 10% of the revenue at least, right? Uh, Yeah, I mean the comeback story will be next year or potentially next race. I mean, I've made actually significant progress for my injury, and I'll talk about it later, like how I'm feeling right now, like 2 weeks later. But yeah, comeback story is probably what's in the making, right? Like it's not that I'm an invincible story, but more like I fail sometimes, but I learned from that, which I did. Just even processing the emotion for the past 2 weeks have been helpful. The importance of having a wonderful wife like Nora supporting me when I'm super upset and super negative and she says positive things, I'm just bitching around and she, she's still trying to support me, really appreciate that. Or the importance of friends and almost like living adventure through others. We had Brian this weekend who did his 10th Leadville, and I couldn't even pace. Like even just crewing and walking around was not the best for me, but being there and seeing like the accomplishment of other people, which is one of the reason I have my channel, right? Like, sure, it's to show my adventure, but a big part of the time, and I spent like what? Someone like mentioned about the ads, how annoying it was. I spend probably 30 hours every week on my channel, making movies, responding to question, engaging with people, and like trying to have a positive impact on the community. Like 30 hours is basically a full-time job, plus my actual full-time job that is actually paying me. Um, it's a lot of work, right? And the reason I do it is definitely not to be paid because I like if you knew how little I make, yeah, I get free shoes, like that's great, but it's definitely not the worth the 30 hours, but it's helping people have their own adventure, helping people have these wonderful views, go to the finish line. And, there were quite a few people that did Bigfoot that, they watch my channel, they follow my advice and they have their adventure and it's helpful. And living through that was something that I was kind of doing this weekend, like everyone at Leadville finishing or not finishing their race, but having their adventure. That's why I do it. And yeah, that's how I try to rationalize it. But does it suck to have a sprained ankle on the first day? Yeah, yeah, it really, really, really does suck. All right, let me catch up still, especially no refund. Yeah, yeah. The no refund, I mean, I'm a little sore about it. I understand why the races do that, like otherwise people would pull out all the time and it would just be a mess. Like if you look like Cocodona, you have a wait list of like I don't know, 1,000 people. If on top of that you can get your money back, then people would wait last minute. And I know why they do it, but that definitely pushed me towards an injury and potentially making wrong decision in the future. Like, well, the money is gone for Swiss Peak. Should I just give it a shot anyway? Like, why not? I'm not making it worse. You have to be smarter than that. And unfortunately, money is a factor. Like unless you're rich somehow, it is a factor. These races, especially 200 miler, are expensive. So it's part of the equation. It shouldn't be, but it is part of the equation. It's kind of the ugly side a little bit. Uh, Sign up for the lottery and withdrew. Not sure which one. Sorry, Rob. You can let me know below. Uh, Recovery time for the sprain, because it's grade 1 or 2, I think 2 to 4 weeks, but I'm feeling pretty good. I haven't tested running, but I'm feeling pretty good. It's more the underlying injury that I think made it worse from the sprain. That is an issue, and I'll go in detail about that very soon. Yeah, how to make training work with your working schedule is really difficult. I mean, I can definitely relate it. I was on a podcast with Jeff Peltier, so I was really honored to be there. I don't know when the episode is going to come out, but have a look for that. But we talked a little bit about that, like how as a content creator you have to balance like your work, your full-time job, training, and then creating content. And my work is not an easy work. I work probably 50-hour a week-ish. Like bad weeks will be worse than that. Good weeks will be 40 hours, but never less than 40 hours. We don't have kids, so that's a huge advantage that we definitely have with Nara. I mean, we want kids, so like we're gonna get there. And then training 15-hour a week plus my PT recently, that's easily 8 hours a week of PT, and then content creation 30 hours. So when you make the math on that, like yeah, there's a lot of short nights, and that means that sometimes I have to decide, am I editing a movie right now or am I going for a run? Just before Bigfoot, I had to decide, am I going to be able to publish the Tao 200 movie, or am I going to sleep 8 hours a night before my race? And I opt for like sleeping like 2 hours a night to make the movie. So balancing these things can be really, really difficult sometimes. But I know it's appreciated, so it's worthwhile for that. But yeah, it's about prioritization and making the most out of your time. Like for training, I think quality sometimes can make up for the lack of time. Going for a good training run and doing the right things as opposed to junk mile of just going for 6 mile at zone 2, but it's not really serving a purpose of long run, but it's not serving the purpose of an intensive workout. Focusing on quality can help there, and then organizing everything. Uh, Sorry, I'm just catching up. I'm slow at doing that. It's helpful when Nora is there and is whispering in my ear, but yeah. Uh, I don't know. Yeah, everyone's asking about Goggin. I saw Goggin, but I barely just saw him. Good for him. You know, I'm not necessarily like a Goggin follower, but I saw his post after the race, and I think it's good to give credit where credit is due. Goggin has done some incredible things in terms of racing as an amateur runner. Like as an elite runner, he's not an elite runner. Like David Roche, like is way faster than like Jim and all of these people that are professional runner. But as someone, you know, an average guy. Like he's doing more than average for sure and has amazing races for sure. And more to the point, I think he's inspired a lot of people. I think his training advice are not super healthy sometimes for long term, and that leads to injury potentially. But you know, he came back from a major injury, I think he had knee surgery. So good for him for being back and performing so well. So congrats to him. Also, his post afterwards was, you know, congratulations to everyone who finished, but also congratulations to everyone who just was brave enough to toe the line. Which, you know, I think that's the right mindset. So I really appreciate his post on that, and for that I'm raising my hat, Mr. Goggin, for this. Uh, yeah, dropping was very wise. There's really no regret in me dropping in that context. I can play the footage. Sorry, although most of the footage after that is just in the dark. No regret on pulling the plug. Definitely the right decision, but a very painful decision that you get there one step at a time. Like I was making pros and cons in my head, and like, why am I so hesitant about dropping right now? And there will be things like, because I think I can finish the race, like I think I can push through that pain. And it's like, okay, yes, you can do that. Maybe you don't know for sure, but what's going to happen to your ankle? It's like, well, I will definitely make it worse. Recovery right now, probably 2 to 4 weeks. If I push through the pain, maybe I finish, but then it's 2, 3 months of recovery. Nara just went through that. It took her 3 months to run again. So, like, do I really want to basically give up all of my other races of the season? Which, you know, that's Swiss Peak, that's Grindstone, that's Moab, that Javelina, just to potentially see that finish line. And then I was like, well, maybe so that I don't have a DNF. But then I was like thinking, okay, but why does it matter to DNF right now? Why is it so negative? And it was clear that it's the right decision to DNF, and it hurts my ego. Like that, that really fell down to that. Like it hurts my ego. And look at this stupidly beautiful sunset. It was so gorgeous. The camera definitely does not do it justice, but my God, it was so beautiful. But I was very sad. I was almost crying at that point because I knew that it was the last sunset that I would see in the race. But like I was like, it's only ego that is preventing me from dropping at the next aid station. Just like seeing how far I can push and feeling that, in 1 or 2 weeks or 1 or 2 months, I'm thinking back, did I pull the plug too early? And if I push until my injury really prevents me from moving, my ego would be protected from feeling like I pulled the plug early. I feel I pulled the plug early, but not too early. I could tell that something was wrong. This is just silly. Oh, you pulled out of the Bigfoot lottery. I mean, I think Bigfoot is one of the great race. I wouldn't pull out of that lottery if I were you, but maybe it's too late already. So it's a great adventure. It's not necessarily the most beginner-friendly course, like very long segment between aid station that you kind of have to be prepared for. But yeah, most of the footage after that will be me bitching in the dark. So I think we'll find a nice little arm like this. Yeah. Um, and we'll close out very soon. Like I'm gonna talk about the injury right now and like what's the future looking like in terms of recovery. Can you tell how you're speaking? Yeah, I'm trying silver lining, but like I need to be honest. Like I was not always super mature and zen about my decision to drop. Like I was all over the place. I was sad, I was angry, I was disappointed, I was ashamed, I was like and as soon as we can move in the future a little bit here, but as soon as I drop, yeah, you can see my face. As soon as I drop, like we're we're Saturday morning and my flight out of Portland is Wednesday morning. Like, and I don't have a place to stay right now. Do I really want to stick around and just feel miserable for half a week? And I decide, like normally I would want to hang out and like see people that finish the race and all of these things, but I feel like I need my wife right now. Like I need to hang out. So I book a flight immediately. Like at 7 a.m. I was back at the airport and I was flying back to San Diego to be with her. So yeah, what's the status right now? Well, actually, we'll start with, I had this tradition of like putting my buckle behind me, but I don't have a buckle, but I do have a stand for it. So I'm gonna put my little stand and my little caca guy pooping on the rock, where hopefully in the future I will get a Bigfoot 200 buckle on my stand, but for now it's gonna be a placeholder ready for revenge. All right, we have the placeholder ready for revenge. So the status right now is, well, so I'm out of Bigfoot, which means I'm out of the Triple Crown for this year. I'm still signed up for Swiss Peaks, but mostly because I need to make a game time decision about what I do there. Our travel is already mostly arranged, where the first week, which direction? The first week with Nara, we're going to be in the Swiss Alps. We have our flight and everything, so we're going to go anyway, and I'm sure I can still hike. And then Nora is coming back in the US to work. Then I was supposed to stay there and then race the race and come back. So the only flight that I haven't booked yet is my return flight. And I need to decide, am I flying back with Nora or am I flying back and just like giving it a shot and see how it goes? It might sound that it's very soon afterwards, but the sprain itself, the good news, guys, is that it was a right call. Like it is a sprain. Especially afterwards, it was more purple. It was more swollen. It was more painful. And as soon as I sat down for a little bit of time, it got super stiff, super painful. I could barely walk. Like even getting to the car because I was sitting at the aid station for maybe 30 minutes. Getting to the car, which was 30 feet away, was extremely difficult, extremely painful. I was like, yeah, no, this is the right call. Yes, it would have stayed warm if I had just kept walking and walking. So I don't think the next segment would have been as painful as getting to the car. But at some point, it's a 200 miler. So at some point, I'm going to have to sleep, to lay down. And no way I could have continued after that. So super painful. I went to the airport. I even asked, like, at the counter, like, can I have a person like pushing me around like a handicap, which was really needed because the airport was like stupidly like big and like with the connection. But it got better. It was swelling, but it was not like grapefruit. Like it was more like almost like, I don't know, a ping pong ball size, so like very reasonable. And by now it's 2 weeks later. There's some movement that is still kind of stiff and a little sore, but not to that level. I can walk around, and the strain itself, the sprain itself, is totally fine. The real issue, though, is that the underlying injury that I have been going through PT for 3 months, that was not quite 100% back, got worse from there, much worse. It's very stiff. I'm dragging my feet all the time when I'm walking. It's better this week. I guess we're Monday, so we'll see with the rest of the week. It's better. Like I can hike on it, I can walk around, but I cannot go very fast. And I haven't tested running because because of the sprain. But it used to be that running was actually helping make it less stiff. So when I was training for Bigfoot, like the last week where I was able to put mileage, the days I was not running was where I was feeling by far the worst. And I would run a little bit, it would be stiff for a mile or two, then it would get better. So right now, my hope is that if I get back to exercising a little bit, it will loosen up. Maybe the extra rest has been helpful. I'm not planning to do anything crazy right now. I think the real test will be when I'm in the Alps, and most likely I'm going to book my return flight with Nara. And so long for Swiss Peaks. I'm going to come back someday. I mean, that's one of those that it was the number one race for the year. That was the one race I was by far the most excited with Swiss Peaks, which meant I didn't want to have anything that would risk it. That's actually why I didn't race Leadville this weekend. It's not because of the injury. I was not in Leadville to begin with because I knew first Bigfoot was pretty close, but also Swiss Peaks was right afterwards, and I didn't want to risk Swiss Peaks from potentially an injury at Leadville or just being too tired. So it was my number one goal for the year, number one adventure, and that one is painful for that to like even say like I'm not even trying to hike a little bit. Like even if I go like a grandpa pace, like going very slow at 2 miles an hour, maybe they pull me off from cutoff time, but at least I get some miles and the money is gone anyway, so why not enjoy it? So it's a tough decision, and I think I'll have to test my legs a little bit to make the right decision there. I obviously don't want to make my injury worse. That's the number one concern. But yeah, I cannot make a decision at this point. And then every other race after that is the same mindset, except that they're not my number one race. So I have Grindstone in mid-September. The main reason I'm racing Grindstone is to get stone for UTMB. But if next year I'm doing Swiss Peaks and or Bigfoot, I'm not doing UTMB, so I don't need the stone. So Grindstone is a race that I can easily pull the plug from and not feel too bad about. So I haven't made travel arrangement for that. Then after that is Moab. Moab I'm gonna do next year because right now I signed up for the Triple Crown for next year. So surprise, surprise! I'm gonna do the Triple Crown. I'm gonna get my revenge on Bigfoot, but also all of the Destination Trail race. So I'm gonna be doing next year um, a Monster 300, Cocodona, then the Triple Crown. That's the goal right now. So I'm going to train specifically for that. And I might even take like a long break this winter to really fully recover my ankle because I can run on it, but I want it to be 100% back. Then I want to have specific training for longer distances and then get back to Bigfoot and like get my freaking buckle and get my revenge story. Yeah, I mean, Nora, we will enjoy the Alps regardless for sure. And that was part of the decision. Like right now, I feel that I will be able to hike in the Alps. Am I able to trail run in the Alps? I don't know, but we will be cool doing cool stuff. So plenty more of adventure to come. I think I'm gonna wrap it up very soon. Just let me know if anyone has question right now. Otherwise, we're gonna say ciao, see you next time. Oh, by the way, a project that is really cool. So I said, and I'm sorry for being all over the place, but Leadville was this weekend, so congrats anyone that is in the chat right now that was there or that race or anything. Like, congratulations. It's a cool race. I wish I had done it, but I mean, obviously I couldn't have done it. But Coach Brian was racing. Coach Brian, we were co-hosts together on a podcast for quite a while. He was the one pacing me at Badwater, and he was doing his 10th buckle after 16 year. I know also some people have sobriety story potentially. I mean, Brian has a story like that where he has substance abuse and he was able to overcome that, not necessarily through running, but definitely running has been an aspect, a positive aspect of his life, an outlet for his energy. So we spent the weekend helping him, but also I'll be most likely making a movie about that, about his experience at Leadville, not just this year finishing his 10th buckle, but also his journey from 2010 when he was mailing a check to Ken and Marilee to sign up for Leadville apparently, which I'm like, wow, check, like, wow, you're old, my dude. And all the way to this year where his kids were there, even his daughter Anna was pacing a little bit. So quite a journey, and I think we can take a lot of inspiration from that. And for me, that's interesting, movie wise or content wise, because as opposed to being like the guy like first person view, which is really the style that I try to do with these movies, right? Is to bring you along, like I will make you feel how I feel as much as possible. I will not censor when I'm farting or these things, and instead do a movie that is most like a third person view, like we're observing, we're having interviews. So it's going to be a cool process. I'm working closely with Nora on that. So it's going to take a little bit of time to edit, but you should really follow the channel for that. And I have a bunch of the video coming up. The next one being how to run 100Ks. I think that's coming up like this Friday. So cool stuff all along. All right, just let me read the comments and then we can say ciao. What do you think about long-term effect? What do I think about long-term effect of racing all of these ultras? I think it depends a lot on how you're racing. Are there studies? Obviously, there's a lot of studies. Actually, Brian was part of a study this weekend where they took his blood. It really depends how you're racing it. And we talked a little bit about Goggin. Goggin has always been someone who's pushing above and beyond his limit. He's pushing through injuries and these sorts of things. So I think from a structural point of view, like your knees, your joint, these sorts of things, I think that can create damage in the long term. But I think that if you're pacing smartly, slowly, when you're detecting injuries, when you're making sure to do physiotherapy, when you see that something is wrong, you dial back mileage, not because you're a little bitch, but because you want to have long-term success, then I think you can protect your joint to some extent. Yes, some people will still have knee issues or ankle issue or hip issue, but that's also true for people that are not working out, that are overweight. And I know way more people that have knee issue from skiing than from running. So that's my point of view. Then the other potential impact, like heart disease and these things, I think also depends on the level of intensity. The study that I've seen, or maybe that was about, yeah, that was about knees, was that professional runner were more prone to osteoarthritis in the knee, but the average runner, that was not the case. And I think that speaks a lot of volume to the importance of impact and speed. When you look at like guys like Jim doing Western State in what, like 14 hours or something crazy like that, I cannot even keep up 1 mile with them. They're going so crazy fast. And potentially, I mean, not to say him specifically, but there are professional runners that are also doping, and doping will have consequence like heart disease, and like liver function and these sorts of things. So you also have like confounding factor when you're looking specifically at professional athletes, and that might have created bias on this trial where substance abuse might be leading more to healthcare health problem. But on the flip side, you can see a lot of positive cases of people in their freaking 80s still running ultras. Um, I'm not. I'm racing a lot, but I'm definitely not racing. It's more like hiking, and people will not complain as much when you hear about someone doing the PCT or the Appalachian Trail, and they do more mileage than I do, right? So with the heavy backpack, is it bad for them? I don't think so, but we'll see. Honestly, I would rather live my life to the fullest, and that's what I do right now. If I see that there's important consequence to my health, I would stop. I know some people say that they would not stop, that they would continue, but that's not the case for me. If I would hear that I have heart problem from endurance sports, I would find something else to as an outlet for my stuff, or I would dial it down. But there's really no sign of that. Yeah, I have the ankle issue right now. The sprain is, it's an accident, and the other entry was clearly because I staggered race too close, and for ego reason, for that one time in my career, I decided to push through it, make it worse, and now I'm still dealing with it and feeling pretty stupid about it. But such is life, right? You live, you learn. But I'm not too worried about the health consequence. All right, guys. Baking, yeah, I'll be baking with Nora. So baking with Simon and Nora. That's gonna be our new channel in the future. Maybe, yeah, maybe next month I'm gonna transition everything to that. Um, really appreciate everyone following. Stay tuned to the channel. If you appreciate the live stream, as always, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment in the comment section, not just the chat here. It's helping my stuff be viewed. It's helping more people have, I hope, a positive outlook on the sport, having positive tips on how to do these things, help with a health mindset. So thanks for watching, and see you next time. You'll hear very soon about the other things that I mentioned.